Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TradeStation Masterclass. Today's Monday, July 18th. And we're starting off our masterclass series with a platform essentials class. This is highlighting Radarscreen and how to organize and how to manage symbols in this application. Sometimes we're just adding symbols one at a time, and I'm just going to show you some tips and tricks that you can do on the TradeStation platform to make sure that you're using the full potential of Radarscreen. So before we get started, let's go through some of the disclosures. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, online trading is not suitable for everyone, and past historical performance is no guarantee for future results. For a moment, I went blank there on the disclosure. For additional information, you can go to that link on this PowerPoint slide, www.tradestation.com/important-information. All right, let's go over here to my TradeStation platform. As I said at the very beginning, this is a class. By the way, if I did not say my name, my name is Jesus Nava, the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities. For compliance reasons, we always have to identify who we are and our relationship to TradeStation. So that's for anybody that's just joined the masterclass. Welcome to the masterclass family, and thank you for your support. Let's go ahead and open up Radarscreen. It's one of the applications right here on the TradeStation platform. Here it is, and I'm just going to open it up and resize it so that it opens up or it fills up the whole workspace area. All right. I may have changed some of the default columns that come up on Radarscreen. So if you pull up your Radarscreen on your platform, it may look a little bit different than the one that I'm showing here. For example, I have this column that is description. I've removed some of the other columns that I may not be interested in. So that's something you can do on Radarscreen. However, that's not the topic of today's conversation, although I'm open to any questions you may have. The chat window, by the way, is open for anybody that wants to chat. I think last time we did a class, we had some issues with chatting. I think those issues have been resolved. So when you get a chance, if you can, chat something in, I just want to make sure that you have permissions to chat. They were disabled for one of my last sessions, and we had to get our technical team involved. So welcome, everyone. All right, so oh, by the way, if you're new to the masterclass, we do a couple Q&A sessions that are open to anything you want to ask about the TradeStation technology. Those sessions are on Tuesdays at 11:30 and on Fridays at 11:30. We always try to skip to the same schedule so that there's no confusion. If there's any class schedule change, we usually are very open about letting you know what those changes are. Okay? So let's go ahead and add symbols. So as I said at the very beginning, you're probably already used to type in symbols one by one. So if I type in the symbol for Apple, then I can see that Apple shows up. And since I don't see any chats in here, I'm going to assume that the chat is still disabled, which is okay. I thought it was going to be turned on. So if you guys are trying to chat and it says disabled, I'm sorry about that. So I was going to say, why isn't anybody chatting? Why isn't anybody sending in me any messages? And then I realized it must be disabled. So I'm sorry about that. We'll get, let me just, so I don't forget, let me send my tech guy a comment about this. Okay, just to make sure that we get that cleared and you guys are able to chat. It's tough to, I'm pretty sure that I got a message from our tech department that it was finally enabled. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and continue on. So as I said before, we can type in a few symbols here. So let me do DAL, which is a symbol for for Delta Airlines, LUV, which is Southwest. Maybe I can do Disney, HD for Home Depot, Google, which is called Alphabet now. It still trades under the symbol GOOG. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to skip a row, because anytime you want to create some separation between symbols, the best way to do that is by just adding a blank row, and I'll show you why. Let's say, for example, that we wanted to type in some indexes. For example, I'll do the Dow Jones. Oh, data. Okay, because it's not an at symbol, it's this $sign, INDU. Okay, maybe I'll do $COMPX, which is the NASDAQ composite. I'll do SPX.X. Maybe I'll do VIX.X, which is the volatility index, $sign. Okay, that's an invalid symbol. So that's fine. The reason why we add, sometimes a blank row is, as I said before, to create some separation, allowing you to sort symbols within their groupings. For example, if you want to know which stock has gained the most in value, and at the same time, which index has gained the most in value, all you need to do is sort by the net percent change. So you double click once, it sorts in ascending order. You double click again, and it sorts in descending order. So now I can see that Delta is up almost 6% since the close of Friday. Pretty impressive for Delta Airlines. I'm not sure what's happened to it, but this allows me to rank my symbols and see the ones that stand out. In regards to the index, you can see that the volatility index is up 1.4%. But the nice thing about having this blank row is that it allows you to sort those symbols within their groups, and it doesn't mix, symbols together, which sometimes it's helpful, because you may want to, create these separations, especially if you're, if you're keeping track of symbols that belong to a sector, symbols that are of a certain type. For example, here I have indices. In fact, I can take this one step further in order to organize my symbol lists and add what's called a label row. So I can right click on this very top symbol for my indices, and I can go here to data, and I'm going to add a label row. This adds this label row at the very top, which says literally label row, but I can double click where it says label row and put in my own subheading, and I'm going to call this indices or indexes. I've seen the word used interchangeably, so I'm just going to see indices or indexes, whichever one you wanna use. I can do the same thing here for stocks. I right click on the very first symbol of the group, go to data, add a label row, and I can double click where it says label row and say stocks. And you can create these separations so that you can organize your watch list most efficiently. Right here at the bottom, Radarscreen also provides you the ability to create additional pages. Page 1 is displayed or automatically displayed because that's the way that Radarscreen starts. But I can double click where it says page 1 and give that a custom name. And I can call this, let's say, my watch list. And that way it is saved like that. But it's not automatically saved. I would have to save this into a workspace so that next time I log into TradeStation, it pulls it up the same way that I left it. But I gave the tab a name, but if you notice, I'm still in a untitled workspace. So this is not saved yet. If I really want to make sure that this list of symbols comes up the next time I'm using TradeStation, I'm going to right click on this untitled workspace and save the workspace with a custom name. I'm going to call this my Radarscreen. You can have, multiple Radarscreen windows open. Depending on the type of symbols that you're following, you may have a Radarscreen set up for stocks, maybe another Radarscreen set up for ETFs, maybe you have another Radarscreen set for futures. Whatever asset class is it that you're trading, you may organize your symbols in separate Radarscreen windows. You may also continue to add pages right here at the bottom. You notice that I call this first page or this first tab my watch list. And Radarscreen allows you to add up to 8 additional tabs. So I can right click where it says my watch list and I can say add a new blank. And this is like starting all over from scratch. So this is page 2. On this page 2 of Radarscreen, I can come here and maybe use some of the prepackaged list of symbols that we have here inside of TradeStation. When you go to add a symbol list, we have the top 3 index components that you can add at once. For example, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, and the Dow Jones Industrial. Makes it very easy for you to add all of its components into one view. Let's say that you want to track all the stocks that are inside of the S&P 500. I'll click it, and that adds a total of 500 symbols into my Radarscreen. Now, it did that very quickly, but one thing that I want everyone to be aware of is that Radarscreen has a limitation on the number of symbols that it can track. I just dumped 500 symbols into Radarscreen. And if I add, the about 8 or 9 symbols that I have here, that of course is going to continue to add towards that limitation. That limitation is 2,000 symbols. So if you come into Radarscreen with the intention of following every single stock in the stock universe, Radarscreen is not the window that is going to allow you to do that because of the limitation. You can only track 2,000 symbols. However, 2,000 symbols is still a lot of symbols to track. I would go on to maybe other TradeStation applications to sort of narrow down the universe of symbols, because maybe there are symbols that you probably would not want to trade for whatever reason. Maybe because they are outside of a price range. Maybe you would think that something is way too expensive, or maybe you want to stay away from what's called penny stocks and you want your symbols to have a certain value to them. Sometimes that may be sort of a filter, or maybe you want to stay away from symbols that don't have trading activity. If they are not trading, what's the point of having them occupy space inside of a Radarscreen window? So a lot of times, I always recommend users, you can go to other applications in TradeStation, specifically the scanner, to narrow down the list of symbols that you're going to watch on a tick-by-tick basis, and then bring those symbols here into Radarscreen. So don't begin to maybe add a lot of symbol lists into Radarscreen, because you can very easily reach that limitation of 2,000 symbols. Many times, if I come over here to my page 2, I'm going to double click on my page 2, and I'm going to call this S&P 500. So I know that these are the 500 symbols that make up the S&P. When you add a symbol list component like this, one of the things that Radarscreen does, it automatically gives you a label with the name of that symbol list, and the very first symbol that is in that list is going to be the index itself. Always be aware of that. You can remove those 2 rows very, very quickly by doing a click and drag. If I click and drag from the top row to the bottom row, it'll highlight both symbols, and I can press delete, and you can see how they go away. If you just want to leave the symbols without the label rows, I would rather remove it because I have the name right here at the bottom. So I know that that's the S&P 500. The same happens if you look at any of these symbols and you want to remove any of the symbols that are part of the S&P 500. I can leave the symbol list as is, but the ranking that I was doing on my watch list can also be done here in the S&P 500. If you want to know, out of all these 500 symbols, which one is the one that has the highest volume, I just double click on volume one more time, and you can see how the top is AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, which is trading or has traded close to 50 million shares so far. Now, this is volume today. You can see how it increases as we speak, tick by tick. So yeah, ranking the symbols that are part of an index like the S&P 500, it's very easy once you have the symbols inside of Radarscreen and see which one have, highest trading activity. If I double click on percent change, you can see the one that has dropped the most is CF Industries, symbols CF, has dropped 3.5%. And if I double click again, the one that has gained the most is Carnival Corporation. It's up 9% since the beginning. I'm sorry, since the close of Friday. So ranking symbols inside of Radarscreen is something very simple to do. Let me go ahead and open up a new tab here. Right click, add a new blank. From here, if I go to data and I go to add symbol list, we have another section here called other symbol lists, which is, pretty extensive, if I may say so. Three main categories. The top one is custom symbol lists. Those are lists that you create yourself. It could be for any reason or any type of filtering that you do. You have symbol lists that are provided by Reuters. These are the industry groups. And you have symbol lists provided by TradeStation. Some of the categories here may overlap. For example, here we have industry groups as well, but you can see that inside of TradeStation, we have far more industry groups than what the Reuters symbol lists has. And it doesn't mean that we are that we have things that are not provided by Reuters. It's just that the way that the symbols are organized is differently. It's different. If we look at the list of industry groups provided by TradeStation, we have transportation as one of the groups, but we also have aerospace, which could be also categorized under transportation, or maybe motor vehicles. You can see another category here for motor vehicles. So what is happening here is that industry groups provided by Reuters are grouped a little bit differently. If I open up transportation inside of Reuters, you can see that you have, airlines, you have trucking, railroads. So it's all about organizing the symbols. If I wanted to have, a list of symbols under transportation, I know that there are different subcategories under transportation, but I may want to track the top symbols inside of this industry sector. This is what I do. You can see inside of each one of these subcategories, inside parentheses, it tells you how many symbols are included in any of these subcategories. Our air courier is 8 symbols. So I'm going to click OK here, and it's going to add those 8 symbols in here. Some symbols, like, for example, UPSA may have been a symbol that was traded or trading before, but it's not trading any longer. I'm not sure how frequently Reuters go through their list and updates them, or how frequently TradeStation goes through their own lists to update them. But sometimes you're going to see cases like you see a symbol and it says data request incorrect symbol because maybe it was a symbol that was trading before, but not anymore. But I continue to do that until I get all the subcategories. Let me go here to add symbol list. Maybe go to other symbol lists. Again, Reuters, industry groups, transportation. So this may take a while. Airline, there's 28 symbols. I cannot, I can only add one at a time. If I try to add multiples, I cannot, even if I hold down the control key on my keyboard or the shift key, it doesn't allow me to select multiple categories. And I think it's just a way to make sure that you don't maximize the limitation inside of Radarscreen. So airline, I'm gonna come here, data, add another symbol list, data, symbol list, other symbol lists, Reuters, industry groups, transportation. I'll do miscellaneous transportation, maybe another one, data, add a symbol list, Reuters, industry groups, transportation, railroads, one more or two more, data, add symbol list, other symbol lists, Reuters, industry groups, transportation, trucking, and then I come over here and I add the other one, data, symbol list, other symbol lists, Reuters, industry groups, and open up transportation, and I'm going to add water transportation. In total, Well, without removing the ones that say incorrect symbol, about 200 symbols are part of the transportation sector provided by Reuters. Now, of course, I'm not just gonna, use up 200 rows just for the transportation sector. If I want to have something that is representative of the transportation sector without overwhelming my radar screen. So the first thing that I do is I go through this list and I remove the labeled rows because this is all transportation for me. If you want to, if you want to leave the subheaders, it's up to you. But this is all transportation, at least in that transportation main industry group sector. So I'm going to leave it as just one group. And this label up here, I'm just going to call it transportation. And from here, I'm going to, first of all, sort by description, because I want to be able to sort by any symbol that says incorrect and remove them. Okay, so now I'm down to 183 symbols, if I filter that way. And then what I do, because you can see that some symbols here are barely trading, like this one right here. Let me open this up a little bit. This is a company, Box Ships Incorporated. You can see that the last traded price was, 0.002 of a penny. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but it's 0.0002 last traded price. And you can see that volume today is 4 shares. I don't know what the company does, but maybe it's not a company that is going to hugely impact the transportation sector. That's what I'm trying to get to. So what I do most of the time when I have a list of symbols like that, I sort by volume just to see what type of volume we are talking about. And you can see that the top, 30, 40, 50 symbols don't quite even reach 100,000 shares. So if I wanted to maybe only have the symbols that have traded at least 100,000 shares, I can take this symbol, which is the one that it's almost reaching 8,000, then go here to the very top, hold on my shift key, click on this other one, and delete. So I deleted every symbol that does not have at least 100,000 shares in trading volume. That leaves me with 92 symbols, which is still, a lot. So let me go back a little bit further. Let me remove any symbol that doesn't have at least 500,000. So remove those. I'd be removing symbols that I may be interested in. For example, FedEx, XBO Logistics. These are symbols that stand out because I know the companies. So sometimes removing symbols by trading volume, it's smart because, as I said before, if it's not a company that's traded a lot, then maybe it doesn't have that big of an impact in the sector itself. However, it also depends on the price of that, or the price of that security, because a lot of times if the price is too high, it is understandable that the volume is not as high as other stocks that are priced lower. For example, FedEx over here has a price of $220 per share, which could explain, why its trading volume is not, 500,000 yet. In comparison to something that, may stand out here. Like, for example, the one that's traded the most, American Airlines, is a transportation stock. It's only $14. Of course, you're going to be trading more shares of that. But it's if you want to build a radar screen that follows, the top 10 or the top 20 symbols by the value, then one thing that I do, if I want to do a fair comparison here, I multiply the volume times the price. How do you do that? Well, I can add one column here. Something really quick. I know that we're not talking about custom studies, but I thought that I could show you this so that we can make a fair filter, because it's not fair to remove one stock that doesn't have enough volume, but it's only because it's priced higher than other stocks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a column here that provides me a multiplication between the price and the volume. And that way, We can have how much volume in dollars is being traded, which could be a nice filter to filter the group here. So I'm going to come here to a column that's called custom one line. I'm going to add it and I'm going to move it all the way down. Okay, custom one line. It has its own formula, but I'm going to modify it. So I'm going to right click on the header, go to studies, and I'm going to edit one line for all symbols. And what I'm going to do here in the formula that's inside the inputs, by the way, I'm going to multiply ticks times last. Ticks times last. I'm going to click OK. And let's see if that is ticks. Okay, so one thing that you have to keep in mind is the interval. Whenever you do a calculation like this, I was looking at the value here and it says 2,400, which doesn't quite fit the volume here. Volume is 102,000 shares for TK Corporation. So if I multiply this 102 times 2.81, I should get more than 2,400. And the reason that like this math is not working is because when I use the word, let me go back in there. When I use the word ticks, let me copy this and put it right here inside the chat so that everybody sees what I'm typing in. Ticks asterisk last. When I'm using the word ticks, it's going to go to the ticks based on this interval, the 5 minute, the most recent 5 minute chart. So let's do something. Let's go ahead and cancel out of this. I'm going to highlight all the symbols and I'm going to turn these symbols into daily. There we go. Now it makes more sense because if you have 100,000 shares and you multiply by 2.81, guess how many shares is that? 208, or how much value? 287,605. Let's call this dollars traded, because every share is $2.81. You multiply by the number of shares traded. This is the value that has been traded today. If I double click and I sort by that value, you can see that we have one here that has traded 122,000 shares. But what's the value of that stock? 0.0039. So the value traded is not that much. It's about $477. That's it. So it's pretty cool. Notice these ones right here. These would have made the cut if I had used the filter that said, well, any shares above 500 shares I want to keep in here. But look at the price of those two stocks. This is Priority Aviation and Transportation and Logistics. It's not even worth a penny. It's not even worth a penny, and they still have a sizable volume just because of that value. So by sorting these stocks by this mathematical formula that takes the price per share times volume makes much more sense. What I'm going to do is anything that has traded more than $20 million. So if I take this, go down here, or if you want to take, the top 20, that's also a valid approach. But here I have, let's see if FedEx made the cut. FedEx is towards the top, in value, it's traded close to, we're above $100 million. So you can see how it made the cut because now we're multiplying the value per share time its volume. If you want to do the top 20, it's up to you. But this gives you a good representation of what the transportation sector is. We do not have to follow every single symbol that belongs to the transportation sector. We want to follow, the top 10, the top 20 on each one of these sectors, because those are the companies that are going to have an impact on the transportation sector per se if something happens to them. The other ones, are very kind of insignificant to the sector. So that's just some things that I do. If I want to create a radar screen and pay attention to the industry sectors, this is what I do. I go through all the companies that belong to that sector and I do some sort of filtering, All right. So If I want to do the top 20 here, let me remove, not these ones. Let me again sort by again in descending order. So if I remove from 22 to 33, there we go. This is the top 20 based on value traded, top 20 stocks in the transportation sector. Then I can go on to another sector and say, well, this time I'm going to go to data, add a symbol list, go back to other symbol lists, open up Reuters, industry groups. The good thing is that here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have 12 industry groups. And if we have the top 20 out of each one of these industry groups, then we can follow those stocks. It'll be, about 300 symbols, close to 300 symbols, which is not, crazy for Radarscreen. And at least it gives you a good pulse on some of the stocks that belong to these sectors, because some of these sectors are going to outperform others. And it's always good, to see what companies belong to a specific sector. And if there's a favorable sector to trade, then we can probably find trading candidates by looking into the sector itself. All right. I'm sorry that, in fact, let me go ahead. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Raise your hand. I'll enable your microphone so you can speak. I'm sorry that the chat thing hasn't been fixed. I thought it was, but if you have any questions, let me know. Raise your hand, and I'll enable your microphone for you to speak. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and what else did I want to show you? What else did I want to show you? We went through the industry. Okay, one thing here in regards to symbols. This is page 3, by the way. I can double click on here and call this industry sectors. By the way, all the tabs that I'm creating here are counting towards the limitation. So even though they're not visible, right here I have 20 symbols for the transportation industry sector, but I'm also keeping track of this S&P 500 and my watch list. Those all get added. So even though it's not visible, they're still streaming tick by tick information on each one of those symbols. So something to keep in mind. Another way to bring in symbols automatically into Radarscreen is by right-clicking, going into add a new page, and then add a hot list. If you're not really sure what symbols to bring in, the hot list is a great way for you to introduce symbols into your Radarscreen. And here you have access to all these filters under activity. So you have an activity that is divided into 3 main categories: price filters, volatility filters, and volume lists. The ones that are currently, these are the price lists, and these are percent gainers for 1 day. Again, these are symbols that are probably not symbols that I would have thought of out of the top of my head, because sometimes these are symbols that are not very well known. For example, here we have this symbol ILAG, which has an HB designation next to the symbol. That's a hard to borrow symbol. The company, it's called Intelligent Living Application. First time I hear about them, but today they're up, almost 65%. That's impressive. That's since the close of yesterday, we have a net percent change of almost 65%. Last traded price, $3.70. So it's not an overly expensive stock. So if I pull up a chart here, let's go and take a look. Chart analysis. All right, let me link this. Go to that symbol. And this is a 5-minute chart. You can see the big jump in price. At the close of Friday, this stock was trading at $3.50. I'm sorry, not $3.50. It's trading at $2.25. And then today it's trading at $3.70. So it's a big spike in price. Not sure what happened to it, but notice that this is a symbol that came up to me using the hot list. The limitation of bringing in the hot list here is that you cannot make changes to these symbols. You cannot remove them because these symbols are automatically fed into the radar screen using the hot list. And it makes sense that you cannot modify these symbols because then you're breaking the list. So this would not be the percent gainers anymore. You selected the list because you wanted to see the percent gainers. So if you really wanted to manage this list of symbols, by the way, before I do that, let me go ahead and double click on this page 4. And I'm going to say, this is my hot lists. I'm going to click and drag, like if I'm highlighting the whole list of symbols. I'm going to right click, copy, and then I'm going to go right click and add a blank page so that I can right click and paste again. That'll bring in the 25 symbols that I had in my hot lists. The bad thing about bringing symbols like that from a hot list into a radar screen is that this is not automatically filtered. We lost that link with the percent gainers. Right now, it still may be accurate, but later down today or tomorrow, the hot list is going to provide a totally different list of symbols. But the good thing about this is that maybe I want to continue tracking intelligent living. Maybe tomorrow it will not have a percent change over close to, or at 65%, but maybe the price will do something in my favor tomorrow. Maybe it'll continue to appreciate. Maybe it'll drop, allowing me to go into a short trade, although it's restricted at the moment. But those are things that you can do when you bring symbols from a hot list into your radar screen. Again, I can do my own filtering here. Like, in fact, instead of adding them here, let me copy them again. Go into my industry sectors. I'm going to bring it in here because I have this column that gives me value. I'm going to skip a row so I don't mix them with my transportation symbols. And I'm going to paste them here. All right, so it pastes them here. Let me double click. So that's in descending order. And that way I can see which one are the ones that have the highest value. Because maybe if I'm looking at these 25 symbols, where is that stock that is, here it is, Intelligent Living Application, ILAG. So even though it's not at least to my knowledge, it's not a very well-known stock, the value that has been traded today is huge. The value traded, $337 million worth of stock have been traded. It's the one at the second spot if you look at the top 25 symbols that have gained the most. So a lot of things you can do here in Radarscreen to manage the symbols and group them in a way that that allows you to find symbols that you're probably not well aware of. In fact, here, if I wanted just to watch the top 5, I can remove everything else. And this is the top 5 that have gained the most today. Interesting. I maybe put them somewhere, I'm just saying that these may, be interesting to watch because of the big jump that they experienced from the close of Friday, but maybe it's just nothing, but still it's interesting how we can use Radarscreen to find symbols like that. All right. So I wanted to show you those few things. I wanted to show you how to add symbols manually, how to remove symbols, how to create groups by adding these blank rows, how to add, label rows as well. We talked about adding whole list of symbols, like these are the index components, specifically the S&P 500. We also talked about industry sectors and how to manage the symbols inside of those sectors if you want to watch them. We also explained how to bring in hot lists into Radarscreen and how to copy the symbols from hot lists and put them inside of another page so that we can manage them. Maybe we're not interested in the whole, top 25 symbols of the list. All right. So that's it. That's my class for today. I hope that you walk away with some very useful tips and tricks. And tomorrow we're going to have 2 sessions. We have Ask the Experts at 11:30, and then we have our technical analysis class at 12:30. So hopefully I'll see everyone there tomorrow. Have a wonderful afternoon if I don't get to see you this afternoon. And I hope that you can join me again. Great having you today. See you later. Bye-bye.